Yay, apparently that completely cocked up on my end. Very well. Hello everyone, welcome to another political recap stream here on the Moistski live channel. We're a bit late and obviously a few weeks late on top of that. Hope everyone's well. Sorry about the odd silence. I didn't realise a minute and 20 had passed that fast unless the audio itself didn't play, in which case, bloody
It did
yay.
not. It didn't even start on my end.
Oh, because I'd hit play. That's great. All right, you just had a minute of silence. You're all welcome. Joining me to discuss some things of interest, politically, maybe not politically, who knows, is TrupsLP. Say hello, Trups.
Hello, Trups.
How's your 2-week plus sabbatical been?
Oh, I got my job done. That's really the important part. When I travel for work, sometimes I
Suppose you did when
like
you were
to
ill.
get home. Yes, I had also gotten sick.
Yeah, I suppose you got any work done with that.
Of course, right? Like I get sick on like the Saturday, and then the 24-hour like stomach bug part happens all on a Sunday. But then it was MLK Day. So
Yeah,
on Monday.
It's like when you have a day off and you get a headache.
Mm-hmm.
It's that same thing. It's bloody irritating.
Yeah,
I just
basically that's how it be sometimes, and
yeah.
At least I got to sit around my hotel room.
Yay, familiar territory.
Yeah, yes, completely. Also, I just posted something very interesting that I had seen on my Twitter. What's happening?
Oh,
Yeah. There's one thing in there that you go, what's that about? You see it, right? Just the third one down.
Oh, I notice.
Okay, cool. But what about you? It's been 2 weeks. What have you been up to?
Well, I was sat wondering if YouTube would pay on time, because that was a big worry of mine. Because the moment YouTube paid, I wanted to pay my taxes. I did. Something interesting about that we can talk about afterwards. I bought a laptop for the cabin. I bought the battery and everything else I need to finish it. The laptop is actually next to me. I actually had in the chat Deep Dive Gaming, he's tech support, look at the specs and tell me if it was good enough. He agreed. It has a slot to put an extra hard drive in, so I'm like, yes. An M2, and I'm like, yes. Maybe when I can afford, in a month or two, I'll probably do that. I went out on Saturday. Yesterday went to Stratford, shopping, a mall. I went to a mall. Went out for a day to take my mind off some things. And tomorrow I'm travelling up to Norwich to see a friend who's coming back with me because he'll be help my nieces while their mother is away for a few days.
That's nice.
The only other thing really that's happened is obviously the passing of my sister's husky, which sucked because she was the nicest one of the lot. She's always been the nicest and goodest of doggos.
And thank you for everybody who had donated to the Ko-Fi to assist with the after.
Yes,
costs.
Yeah, all that money was sent over, and yeah, it helped my sister because she'd already paid for it and left her really badly out of pocket, and so she needed that anyway. And some had donated afterwards. That's all been. I will transfer that. Actually, I haven't done that yet. Other subsequent donations afterwards, I will count it up and then transfer that as well.
But again, thank you for everyone being so kind as to do that. Meg did not put me up to that, but when it comes to a member of the family like that, I do genuinely thank everyone.
I really appreciate that. It really sucked because we she for the last 3-4 weeks she's been slowing down with the eating, which is weird for her. She's like an alligator. She doesn't even bother chewing. I give her a piece of bacon at lunch every day, and she'd start slowly eating it instead now. And then the day before, she didn't touch it. And on the day itself, in fact, she didn't touch it. And I thought that's... and the doctor did, like, a few months ago, she'd had blood work done, and they said she was fine. Okay, all right. She's healthy for, for 14. 98 years old in dog years. When they checked her, they then said, okay, where she'd had a stroke into her hole in her side, it was actually more foreshadowing than anything else. Oh, how so? Because she was chewing at a tumour and it metastasized. It's like she was trying to get to the thing that was killing her, and they didn't realize it because they were too busy trying to seal her up to check. No one to blame for it, of course, and it sucks she's gone because she genuinely was the loveliest dog. Never bit anyone unless you were giving her food, and that was only me really. She's So it sucks she's gone. And Mia, the bulldog here, has been pining because she's only 1 and she's known spooks ever since she was a puppy.
Her whole life.
Yeah, and so to her, she's also lost her radiator because Spooky, being a husky.
No. Yes.
Yeah.
I
Spooky.
remember.
Yeah, bulldogs don't have an undercoat, and huskies have all of it.
Yes, but they have in droves.
They never go bald. When they shaved her for a surgery once, I was like, "Wait, she has skin under there."
Mm-hmm.
But I think the kicker.
Meanwhile, I make fun of my cat when they got shaved because they ran around with little chicken legs.
Nice.
When they put the IV in, it just looks so weird.
Yeah. I think the other warning in that respect, though, about the radiator aspect was that on the day, on Friday, she was cold. I've never felt that on her in my life. I felt so bad for her. But she's at peace, and in 2 weeks, she'll be returned home. I will collect her myself because it'll be the only time I can ever take her for a walk where she doesn't take me off my fucking feet.
Mm-hmm. That sounds like big old huskies after all.
Yeah, they're bastards for it. No matter how much you tell them not to, they are absolute bastards.
Well, they're like that 95 to 110 pounds of just pure, excitable fucking nightmare energy.
They pull, and I'm one of the few in the house that can hold her, or could hold her.
Mm-hmm.
So that was often, that's why they weren't so fond of taking her on walks, even if you were trying to keep her calm. She'd always pull. Even actually on the day itself, she pulled a bit as well. Not as much,
well,
obviously.
You know what? She was still herself, at the very least.
Oh, yeah. She's good as to go. Anyway.
So, rip Spooky.
Yes, F in the chat, of course. Thank you. I appreciate that. Where would you like to start today? Because I haven't really asked you what's happened in America or anything. We could start with something UK-based if you'd like.
Yeah, let's do that, because I would like to drum up some of the details that I was missing on some of the topics.
Okay. So in Scotland, the Gender Recognition Bill passed by 86 votes to 39. This would, in turn, streamline the process in Scotland for changing legal gender. The bill would lower the age that people can apply for a gender recognition certificate, a GRC, from 18 to 16. It would also remove the need for a medical diagnosis of gender dysphoria, which applicants only needing to have lived as their required gender for 3 months rather than 2 years, or 6 months if they are aged 16 to 17. This bill, to me, is wrong. Firstly, gender recognition certificate, right? Okay. You don't need to be diagnosed with gender dysphoria, though, which means you are acknowledging 1,000 genders. You are not streamlining a process, you are further complicating it by adding additional genders to it. Or, in this instance, sexes. That's the thing as well. Because they always conflate the two, don't they? One is biological, and people have been trying to undermine that for years, and they can't. The other is a social construct. We can prove that back as far as the 15th century, where all children were called girl. Which I don't really give a shit about that. But the argument here, the thing is, obviously, it was going to pass because it's the Scottish Nationalist Party, and maybe a couple others that align with them. It was always going to pass. Bear in mind, at 86 votes to 39. The SNP have a monopoly on the system right now, although they're not really achieving much. Now, I laughed when it passed because when up in the galley, people were cheering for it. Some even pulled their shorts up or their dress up to show what they had underneath.
Oh well. Okay.
Do I need to explain what they pulled out, or do you have it in an image in your head of something dangling that perhaps shouldn't be? But they're all women. Everyone, shut up.
I mean, you said Scottish, and Scottish are known for kilts, so you really could have been talking about either.
If only I'd said kilts, right?
Mm-hmm.
If only I had.
Yeah,
but no,
I'm trying.
These are the people who are tryhards that look more than they need to. Far too busy. Well, they didn't at the same time. They looked really frumpy, geeky, one color, dyed hair kind of look. The point really is that it passed, and the issues are they're reducing the age from 18 to 16, and that you need to be 3 months having lived as the acquired gender instead of 2 years. The thing with the 2 years was it was supposed to fit in with the medical aspect as well. If you are transitioning, right? If you are transitioning, you are going through hormone replacement therapy. 2 years is ample time for the body to make changes. It really is. If you reduce it to 16, though, actually you're causing problems because they're going through puberty anyway. This just muddies it further. Nothing about this is streamlined. You're just doing the typical science denial to suit your own optics agenda. Well, the UK government, though, have suggested the bill could be modified. But by first, what they did was they blocked it. Ministers believe that the draft law would conflict with equality protections that apply across Great Britain. Nicola Sturgeon called the move a full frontal attack on the Scottish Parliament and vowed to oppose it. I think she's a salty bitch. And that Scottish ministers would defend the bill, warning if the veto succeeded, it would be the first of many. Now, they're challenging the ruling, the SNP are, through a judicial review. But they need more details from UK ministers. Now, based on this, how this usually works, if you request information from UK Parliament, and you yourself have shown them complete lack of respect in handing over information to them, they're going to return the favour, which means this is going to be drawn out and prolonged. Which I find quite amusing because come on. If you're being a dickhead, they're going to return the favour. It's just that's typical. And the SNP have a horrible track record when people request information from them under the Freedom of Information Act. They take ages, so this is going to take time. Now, Sturgeon believes the current process is too complicated and invasive and causes distress to an already marginalised and vulnerable minority group. So, of course, you must push it as if it's a majority population issue. The thing is, the context of what it means to transition or to... Yeah, that's pretty much it, actually. Is not going to be uninvasive. It is going to be invasive because everyone has to get it right. Too many times it has been done wrong now. Tavistock was the only transgender clinic in England. I don't know if there's others in other nations of the UK, but in England it was the only one, and it's been shut down. Why? Because they got it wrong too many times. People detransitioning, the numbers are getting too high. Therefore, this invasiveness that is causing distress, unfortunately, is a vital part of this process. And if it feels invasive and is causing distress, it tells me you are not emotionally ready or capable of handling what is happening or what needs to happen to make sure you can be the best version of you. I might be wrong on that.
Anyway. You know what's actually funny? I noticed a couple of posts recently.
Oh.
There's a group that I follow that's not so nice on Twitter. But one of the things that they had posted recently was a post that had got blacklisted from the MTF, the transgender page on Reddit. And it was a person genuinely asking, you ever feel like you've made a mistake? And, it's one of those things where I genuinely feel bad if that's actually what you think. I think that if you should be confident in whatever position you have in life. If you genuinely believe that changing, your how you identify, all the things that you present as, all the things, if you genuinely believe that's going to make you a happier person, I don't have any right to tell you no. That being said, I hope that you do all of the thought process and all of the thinking that has to go along with it. Because God forbid you make this decision and no longer are you able to reverse any of those thoughts because you have already made your body go through puberty twice in a already mildly destructive way. because your body's not meant to do that.
Mm-hmm.
As well as potentially having removed parts of your body or had them changed or altered in ways that can never be restored.
Yeah.
And that's truly the saddest part. If you have that kind of situation, I'm sorry. And I don't even blame you. I
Thank you,
blame
someone, for the
the person
donation.
out. Oh, thank you. I genuinely blame um, media for pushing this stuff as almost a trend, where it should be a very, very serious conversation one has with themselves and their doctors and whatnot. I don't know. I think that people kind of throw it around too willy nilly.
Yeah, I agree. So the interesting thing with this is how have the UK managed to do this? This blocking of the law falls under Section 35 of the Scotland Act. This is the legislation that created a Scottish Parliament with powers to make laws on a range of issues. If UK ministers think a Holyrood bill modifies laws reserved to Westminster and have an adverse effect on how those laws apply, they can block it. Up until now, though, the law has never been used. In fact, this is the very first time UK government has blocked something from from a devolved administration. It's the first time. Now, Sturgeon argues there is no grounds for the UK government to challenge the legislation because it falls within her powers. However, she has literally, beyond SNP, no support in UK Parliament. None of them. Even Labour, they're not interested in helping her on this. Currently, right, yeah, okay. So, and I proved this. So, the shadow Scottish secretary, who's Labour, said that trans rights and women's rights should not be used as an excuse for SNP Tory attrition warfare. And
What a strange way to phrase that.
It is a very strange way, but there is a point to that. But then it's not attrition at all, or warfare in the slightest. Do you know why? Because the SNP are subservient to the UK Parliament. If they act, we could take away their powers entirely.
Mm-hmm.
That's what the UK government could do. They are top dog, whether they like it or not. So they're just going to have to suck it up, I'm afraid. For those who are interested, I'm going to put the article to this in the chat, as I find it fascinating, and also it's quite informative. Do by all means give it a read. But that's one TED Talk done. You're welcome, everyone.
Yes. So I do have actually a question, because there was a fella who I had responded to recently.
Oh.
And it was there's a channel, or here a page. It's called the Index on Censorship on Twitter, and they posted a thing that says part of the reason for the UK trailing other European powers in recent legislation, which aims to restrict the ability to protest and some features contained in the online safety bill.
The bill that didn't pass.
Backwards. Yeah. So what was that all about?
I have no idea at this point, because I've been getting conflicting information on the online safety bill. Even under Theresa May, they were trying to push something like that. Do you remember the porn license? Do you remember that?
I do.
That. To protect the children.
Is that what basically this is?
Well, it's that area of protecting the children as much as possible. Restricting the internet as much as they can, while not at the same time. Removing the freedom of speech, which is actually where a lot of the issues with, I think it was like up 50 plus Tory backbenchers had all said, no, we're not supporting this. It curtails freedom, we don't support that, because no. Also, they want to be re-elected, so no.
Right, obviously.
They're going to get hammered. They're going to get hammered next year, so yeah, they need to do something.
But yeah, I had brought that up, and I thought that was interesting that they even would push a certain thing like that. It almost makes you think about. There was a comment made in at the WEF, the Davos thing, where the woman said, while laughing, that America would ban hate speech soon, and freedom of speech would essentially be dead.
Yeah.
I thought that was an interesting, thing to assert, as if they were, privy to some other information.
It's definitely an assertion, I'm afraid.
Yes. Now, I don't necessarily know what that will, come out to be. But I thought it was interesting. Now, that wasn't the story that I want to talk about, but I did want to ask about it because I wanted to see if you had any more information on this.
The only thing I remember of it is additional online protections, and by doing so, I could quickly have a look though, because let's have a look. Online safety bill. I don't know about the European Union stuff. There's a .gov website on it. Let's look at the news. Age checks, trolls, deepfakes. Okay. What is the online safety bill? Okay, this might help us. How does the bill work? Okay. Oh, fuck off with your BS here. The cornerstone of the bill is the duties of care it will place on tech companies to protect users from harmful content. Okay. The legislation will apply to platforms that host user-generated content, which covers social media services such as Twitter, TikTok, and Facebook, and search engines such as Google. Although many of these services are based outside the United Kingdom, if they are accessible to UK users, then they are in the scope of the bill's power. All tech firms covered by the bill will have to protect all users from illegal content. That sounds haram! The sort of content that platforms will need to remove, including child sexual, revenge porn, selling illegal drugs, or weapons and terrorism. So the weapons and terrorism one is interesting because what they determine to be terrorism and what they determine to be a weapon is everything. Tech platforms will also have a duty of care to keep children safe online. They do, the terms of service. Minimum age is typically 13. So how do we enforce? It says here, enforce it. How the fuck do you enforce it? People use proxies all the time. Platforms will have to explain in their terms of service how they enforce these age limits and what technology they use to police them. In relation to both of these duties, tech firms will have to carry out risk assessments detailing the threats their services might pose in terms of illegal content and keeping children safe. They will then have to explain how they will mitigate those threats, for example through human moderators or using artificial intelligence tools, because Skynet, in a process that will be overseen by Ofcom, the communications regulator. This is expected to come into force by the end of the year. Well, the bill hasn't passed, so I doubt that's the case. This article is from the 17th of January. As far as I'm aware, it won't go through. Punishments. Fines up to £18 million or 10% of global turnover. Okay. For example, Meta generated under 118 billion in 2021. Well, 10% of that's quite a big chunk. Can executives go to jail under the legislation? I mean, a threat of 2-year jail sentence. Are there other criminal offences? Self-harm, deepfake, cyber flashing.
What is cyber flashing?
Sending unsolicited sexual images. How does it deal with porn and age verification? A robust process in place to check that a user is not underage. Have you got a license for that smut?
How do you tell? Well, I asked them what their favorite Cartoon Network show is, and if they say anything from this the last
Dexter's Laboratory,
I'll accept that answer.
Omelette du fromage.
I accept the answer, but no.
Fantastic. This is the best one. Will it protect adults from online trolls and abuse? Oh no,
they don't need it. You don't need it.
I'm with you, but I'll read the paragraph. Under a previous iteration, the bill placed a duty of care on large platforms to address content that was harmful but not illegal. This alarmed free speech advocates on the conservative backbenches and elsewhere, so it has been removed. Instead, tech firms will be required to remove certain types of legal but harmful content if it is already banned under their TOS, under a clause that tries to ensure platforms pay more than just lip service to their content rules. Adults will also have the option of screening out certain types of harmful content if they so choose. This includes posts that are abusive or incite hatred on the basis of race, ethnicity, religion, disability, sex, gender reassignment, or sexual orientation. The thing is, the screening process already exists. This is not new. Like, fuck off.
Honestly, I have a really hard time even giving them the smallest of credit in these things, because they tried to do something like it, where they tried to make it the internet service provider's job, right? It was their job to monitor whether or not like everybody was, above board with how they were using their service, which essentially encourages those companies to then spy on their people. If any company were to say, yes, we are going to watch what you do for compliance sake, I feel like many liberty-minded individuals would say, nah, fuck you. We're not doing that. Have a nice day. I'm going to go with the company that does not actually spy on me, and you can go suck a fat one.
Honestly,
like
I get that.
Like, there's no way that they can genuinely think that that's going to work.
So, Yempi in the chat, tell me you don't know how the internet works without telling me you don't know. Exactly. The thing here is, I have to give credit to the conservative backbenchers who are free speech advocates, because they're 100% right to have this removed. This has to be removed as a protecting adults from online. I'm sorry, but we're not suddenly going to build a wall around Chris Chan. It's not happening. Chris Chan, Dragon Lord, Ethan Ralph, anyone else that needs to be protected, we're going to build a little wall around them, a castle of their own, so they can continue to espouse their bullshit. No. I'm sorry, the onus is not... The platforms do things to have systems in place, but the duty of care at certain points isn't always on the platform. It's as much on the user as well. And so I don't agree with this idea. The porn age verification... Now, this is the license thing. How do you prove... I'm sorry, but people aren't going to be uploading to access these sites. They're not going to be uploading pictures of their passport or driver's license to sites like this. Sometimes you have to verify your identity on like PayPal. I had to do it years ago with my passport. And I get it. I 100% get it. However, it's not going to happen on porn sites. Why? Because VPNs exist, and people, if they want to watch that kind of stuff, they're going to get it there. The encouraging people to self-harm, sharing deepfake images, and cyber flashing. There are laws in place, but how you track those people down when VPNs exist is nigh impossible. And
I mean, don't get me wrong. There are things that happen online. I was actually having this discussion with the wife earlier today, because we went to go purchase an item from Target that was supposed to be released today. But it was not released, or it was not present, right? But if you went on to eBay, there were already listings for said item for double or triple the price. Now, of course,
scalping.
My little angry ass was, saying for things like, I think that scalping should be straight up illegal, because any person who intentionally buys out a new product for the purposes of reselling at triple the value, I think should very well go to prison for at least 30 days. It doesn't have to be a felony, but yes, fuck you. You deserve jail time and to be labeled a criminal for this action, because you essentially, first of all, we're actually having that discussion, or at least the Congress is having that discussion right now because of a Taylor Swift concert, in which somebody bought 20,000 something tickets and then tried to resell them. Couldn't resell them.
Yeah, there was an issue with tickets over here with Ticketmaster. I wonder if that was something to do with it as well.
Similar.
Scalping is so same company. They meant to limit that shit.
Yeah, no, they need to limit it, because right now, in the way that it is right now, it's completely unfettered. And also, even when the mining craze was happening, right, with GPUs, our governments just let people purchase graphics cards and drive up prices artificially. Now, of course, we know, we the learned individuals who pay attention to politics, we know why at least the American government didn't care too much to fix that problem, because Nancy Pelosi bought stock in it and was totally also, enjoying her net gains from the actuals that NVIDIA was able to then produce to sell their next gen of card, due to scalpers basically purchasing everything.
Yeah.
So thank Bitcoin mining for padding Nancy Pelosi's pocket, all you NFT bros out there. But yeah, no, I think like scalping is a similar thing. But again, okay, so how do you find these individuals? Do you does eBay have to do a thing where they
I don't know.
see that a product is just recently released and somehow this person has is selling 30 units? Well, do you have to then assume that they got that through scalping, or maybe they're just doing their own private resale because they're a small indie company? All these people have their own LLCs, so it's really hard to say, oh, are you a private citizen being a scalper? Well, it's hard to tell, but like you can see when the prices go up. That's the biggest thing. You can see it real easy. But yeah, so things like that, like you can't honestly expect anybody to self-identify as, well, really anything online. I mean, not for nothing, but we are two people who are represented by avatars on a screen at the moment, so not really too far off the mark here.
I'm with you on this 100%.
Yeah, no, I think that is some shit, and I will call it wishful thinking that any politician thinks that is going to be not only passable but enforceable.
I can't see how this. I mean, if they've managed to get this through with what they've already got on here, I can't see how it goes any further. But I know they were going to have to make concessions because of free speech. But then I get where they're trying to put the law in. I get it 100%. I do. I just don't. Once they've opened that door, they're going to find a way to jam the rest in.
Oh, absolutely, all the time.
And that's the problem. You can pretend you're doing it a certain way, but in reality, you are not. You are genuinely trying to control, and people will push back. They push back easily. All they have to do is just do something as simple as use a VPN. I don't obviously when it comes to things like revenge porn and child abuse and deep fakes. The deep fake thing is a strange one, but I tend to agree you shouldn't really do that, to be honest. I
think that it has the potential to be a bad thing. Like, I can see where people could see deep fakes as being harmful, but I can't say that just because something can be used maliciously, it should be then banned, because that's I can't stand by that. It goes against a lot of how the ethics work in my brain.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on this. I agree. It's a strange little area to be in, but I do. As long as they're not going to try and the porn thing is so fucking strange. Yeah, next episode is sponsored by NordVPN. Everyone, if they in Raid Shadow Legends like to give us some of their money, we will happily start with it's a buy.
You making fun of poor Scottish Dankula?
Poor Big Balls, yeah.
Yeah. Poor Nicki Minaj stan.
Yeah, that's him. You know who he is.
Sorry, Chief Justice Dankula. My apologies.
I can't remember which one he is anymore. I forget.
I think he's just Count Dankula right now.
Okay, that's good. He can stop laughing for a little bit. Okay, we'll move on from that. Let's talk about something American for a bit.
Okay, so I actually have a lot of possibilities here because being away for 2 weeks means
I've been accumulating things.
Yeah. So, okay, if we want to start with one thing, since I mentioned Pelosi, the Pelosi body cam video was finally released to the public, I think earlier this week.
Oh, is that the one with the hammer?
Yes.
Oh, I saw that and I was like, fucking hell.
Also, what is happening in this fucking video?
I don't know what... Why hadn't they just tased him?
Oh, not a fucking clue. But more or less, I was confused. Okay, so, right, man opens the door, and those two are already there next to each other, right? And Paul Pelosi is holding a hammer and a drink. And DePappy takes the hammer and starts hitting Pelosi. He never drops his drink. I'm so confused at, like, Imagine for a moment that you are holding a weapon in your hand. You damn well know there's a hammer in your hand. If someone suddenly takes that from you, is your initial response not, "Oh my god," turns around in like slow motion, see the hammer heading towards your face kind of thing? Like, why is the drink the thing you hold on to?
I don't know why
Now,
that's the priority. I really don't.
it's fucking, unless he's like absolutely fucking wasted, at which point, all right, well, then you're drunk and your reaction time is slow.
Very,
Which,
actually.
if you want to make that claim, and I think some have, that's fine. I just think it's lazy.
It is lazy, though. I do agree.
Now, for a while, they didn't want to show this video. I can't find out really why, if everything that we were shown, right? Um, if that tracks, right?
Mm-hmm.
What about that was so difficult to share? Because I know a lot of people would say things like, "Well, it impedes an active investigation." You already know who it is. You have no investigating really necessary. You already know everything about the perpetrator, and if there is more, you just have to ask him. He's arrested.
Okay. So
Um,
I have a
so,
question. The big guy,
yeah.
the big guy with the hammer, he has been arrested, right?
Uh huh. Yes.
And what was he charged with? Do we know?
So he was charged, I believe, I think it was like 8 or 10 different charges. Everything ranging from abuse of the elderly to just blatant battery and assault, breaking and entering. I mean, there was a litany, a full on like a big old list of charges. I mean, it's
It
hard to
had to
just
have been
nail down one of
because,
them.
yeah. I mean, the police reaction was really bad. They were slow.
Well, that too, and also very calm. Now I know what the how the 911 call sounded. It
Mm.
was also very odd, and you could attribute that to, okay, drunken man right on the phone. Um, but yeah, even along those lines, you kind of look at it and you cock your head a bit, and you're like, this isn't even like the protocol. There is a verbiage, right, that is passed around, that if you are in a situation, oh, excuse me, if you are in a
One.
dangerous situation and you need to be able to like call the police, and you need to not make it obvious you are calling the police, they tell you to order a pizza. um and they tell you, like, basically, like, "Oh, hi, Timmy's Pizza. You understand that this is 911, sir? Yes, yes, I do. I'm ready to order. Can I get it for delivery at this address?"
Yeah.
You say these things so that you are conveying the information to the 911 operator, um, so that they can dispatch cops. And so you basically you respond with the first word to whatever the person is asking you. And they're trained in this too, to like kind of piece together what like the code is that is being said to them over the phone.
Yeah.
um
Okay.
but even that wasn't quite right. Like, Paul Pelosi had called, and then there was like a request for the Capitol Police, which was kind of like from Pappy, which is weird. And even on the operator was like, "No, this is San Francisco police. Is there an issue?" I mean, the cops showed up. They knocked on the door. If you really thought something was going down, would you knock?
I wouldn't have thought so. Maybe they thought it was a hostage situation. But even then, do you knock?
No, you take a quick look around. At that point, you'd have the building basically surrounded, so everyone could peek in a window, see
I'm
if you can
surprised they
locate
didn't
someone.
because this is like a politician's home.
Yeah, a very important politician for the time. It was literally the Speaker of the House, third in line for the
So
presidency.
you would think that they would have. I'm not trying to rag on them too much, but
Mm.
even though they claim to live in a much more like not necessarily I don't know if woke's the word, but in a more open sort of minded, let's say less gern in their environment or something, you'd
Hmm.
expect there to be protection. And yet
Yeah.
that guy was a bloody unit.
Yep.
He's not a fucking assassin. He's a big fat incel who managed to get into the guy's home. I'm assuming he just walked right past everyone saying pizza.
Apparently, he might have. Apparently, he may have broken a window or two. But even
Oh, if
still,
the
I'm
pizza was
like,
30 minutes late, I can understand that because he wasn't going to get paid for it.
that's fair. Well, there was no pizza actually.
That makes sense considering the age of the Pelosi's. I doubt they could actually process all that bread.
Fair point.
F.
Um, but all things considered, like like I don't know, just something about the whole ordeal just feels
Wrong.
weird.
It doesn't sit right. I don't understand how you. But then, and I don't mean this. I'm not making. I'm not trying to make a false equivalence. But we did last year. We saw the police reaction to other more dire situations, and they also handled it quite poorly. And I'm kind of wondering if something's going on here. Is there a change going on?
Yes, in a sense there is. If you look at, I mean, I don't know if I could attribute this necessarily to the defund the police movement, but I'm going to draw some pieces to it. So the defund the police movement that went on last year was a real issue for a lot of departments. At the very least, they had an issue where their funding was either cut or they just had generally a whole lot of criticism, from the public. A whole lot of people just didn't necessarily appreciate cops in general. They didn't really give them the credit depending on who they were. It didn't actually matter. Just ACAB was being said, right? So didn't matter. It was just ACAB.
Yeah.
And so I know that a lot of cops, especially in areas like, um, well, that area, the Californian major cities like San Francisco, yeah, they had, they did have some impacts there because that area is exactly the types of folks who would be, actively criticized about their involvement in what people considered, extreme police brutality in the wake of the George Floyd situation, which is where that defund the police movement really took off in the United States.
Yeah. Yeah. That's interesting because if these movements have led, then it's a cause and effect. But will any? So I doubt anyone's willingly going to have those conversations of the negative impact of these things because obviously there's some positive to expose. Of course there is. There's been some really shitty police behaviour over the last few years, and it really doesn't. But it's not obviously on. It's not. There are some issues in a number of states. Yes, it's not a national level; it's a state level. Yet it is affecting a national level because different states, different cultures, different environments. We're talking about California, though, isn't that where this happened? This attack?
Yes. Yes.
Like, this is supposed to be one of the most progressive states, and yet the majority of the crimes we're hearing about come from these states. And I think you can police all this crap all you want and put the police under the microscope, but no, your police are too afraid to help. What does that say about you?
Great question. It's either, you could either look at it and say, all right, well, you've essentially bullied them, right, to the point where they don't even want to respond in a speedy manner. Or you could say that just you are fostering bad quality cops.
Yeah, no, I agree. But you got the wrong environment. You're not going to not going to be able to create a path forward. And I don't want attacks like that to happen on anyone, including the Pelosi's. I really don't. Mm-hmm. But you've created this monster.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely.
And I'm glad people understand. I was worried I wasn't going to get that point out there. I was a bit confused for a second.
Mm-hmm. No. And that kind of does play into one of the other stories that we have here, which is the Tyree Nichols assault.
So I only know of this because just before we started, folks, Trups had mentioned it. I was archiving a source on something else, and I saw the source on the same page. So I know nothing. I only know bits about this because I'd also saw something about Memphis police officers or something, or some police somewhere got disbanded, and I thought it was the same one. But that might not be what I saw.
I believe it was the specific unit. So let me go through essentially what had happened. So Tyree Nichols is 29-year-old black man, gets pulled over for apparently reckless driving. According to his mother, he was only about 2 minutes away. Officials said that the officers approached Nichols and then Nichols ran away. Body cam has come out, and that is partially true.
Okay.
However, what then ensues is 5 cops beating the crap out of this guy.
So that's what I've got. I've got an image of it on this article with a video. I can't show the video.
The video is an hour long. Like, the real body cam footage is an hour long. And even their mother said that they could not watch, they could not get through that whole thing.
That's not, I mean, I wouldn't want to watch that. I wouldn't want that. I don't think anyone wants to. You have to be a certain type of person. He was a FedEx worker. Then this is unacceptable. And also, I would say, based on what I'm seeing in this video, this isn't like white cops annihilating America.
No, this is 5 black cops on a black guy.
Yeah. This is where it might not get as much attention as it should get.
Oh, it's getting a lot of attention. Atlanta.
I meant over here because we don't. Even though we've got one article, we're not covering it as much because it doesn't help us paint a certain message of how uncultured you guys are beyond your police apparently being uncultured pricks.
Mm-hmm. Our networks have been nonstop on this one. And Memphis, so the weird thing was, and there's an odd thing with timing that I'm not too fond of. They released it on Friday night at 7:00, which is, if you're looking at any other news story, a lot of people will tell you that Friday is when you release news that you want to die, that you don't want it to reach for the full week and having your typical, because people literally just aren't watching the news on the weekends typically. However, what they also did by making that happen was they gave free rein for them to basically potentially riot. Now, I have not taken a look to see what the effects all over the place were regarding protests or riot. I know that there were large protests for a lot of stuff. I know there have been vigils. I do not know, and I have not seen it commented on my Twitter, which I thought was extra odd. If there was any riots, I don't think that I've seen any.
So, I have a question about this. So we've got here on an article on my end. Why did the police pull him over? The family say that he was out driving so he could take pictures of the sunset. Officers initially pulled him over for alleged reckless driving, but the police had confirmed there was no evidence to substantiate the claim. For The footage released only begins after the police confront him at an intersection. Police say the initial traffic stop was not filmed. No one knows why, though. He is immediately dragged out of the car, thrown to the ground by the police officers who had their guns drawn. Early on in this video, Mr. Nichols says, "I didn't do anything," and he complies with the officer's instructions. Officers then shout at him, "Put your hands behind your back before I break your," and then, profanities. Mr. Nichols replies, "You guys are really doing a lot right now. I'm just trying to go home." Later, an officer tells other officers who've arrived at the scene that Mr. Nichols swerved and almost hit his police vehicle, but there is no evidence of that. Another officer claims he thinks Mr. Nichols may be on something, which implies they believed he may have been using drugs. There is no known evidence that this was the case, and later in the video, officers say they did not find anything in his car. The next question they are asked by the article is, why were they so aggressive?
Great question.
Well, in this, you've got one of them tries to tase him. He breaks free, tries to run, but then the police officers pepper spray him. How he broke free and why police were so aggressive is not clear. So why did they continue to assault him? Well, this part is, okay. The video seems to show the police anger grows as their incompetence seems to be more revealed. That's why they assaulted him. Why they continued to assault him. Why did no one help? Because there were 5 officers kicking 10 shades of shit, or was it 4? Out of Tyree Nichols. 5 officers armed attacking him. Unless they form a militia, they cannot intervene because they know they're going to get brutalized as well. And to confirm, the police unit was disbanded. You are right. I remember seeing something on Daily Mail about some disbandment of some Memphis officers. I thought it was the entire police force. No, this is absolutely unacceptable, and I don't understand because there's nothing here to indicate why they did it or what drew them to do it. Why they wouldn't stop. This is horrible. The guy was just a FedEx worker.
Even okay. So here's my thing, right? If you get arrested, or if you're pulled over for reckless driving, first of all, of course, there's no evidence of that. Unless their dash cam was on, which it should have been. I actually have in the past made a comment on my Twitter that says that any police officer who either mutes or turns off their body cam should automatically be put on unpaid leave as a breaking of policy, because I don't trust people who will turn off their cameras as a way to avoid somebody either hearing what you have to say or otherwise. That information is technically owned by the public. It is paid for by public taxes. You have no right to deny information to the public about where their tax dollars are going or what employees of the state are doing. And if you want to get down and dirty with the libertarian ideas right there.
Shrapnel in the chat. At that point, nobody can help because you will get in trouble yourself. At that point, exactly. It's not. By the way, this doesn't make you a coward. You just know if you intervene, you're gonna get fucked up like they did.
Unless you mentioned you've got a larger group, but then you have another problem, which is you formed a group to fight officers.
Yeah, and that just leads to them bringing in a military of their own. It spirals. Again, this is a power dynamic, and the police, based on what we see here, have used the power dynamic to unload a barrage of unnecessary hate and volatile anger onto somebody else who did not deserve it, and there was no valid reason to do it. They will, in turn, use that spitefulness and those numbers to get you well and truly screwed.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And I think they've already shown their lack of as pointed out by one of the questions about why did they continue? Why were they so aggressive? It was entirely because they themselves got caught out being idiots. They made a mistake, and they they're too arrogant, simply, or prideful, both the same thing, to be honest, to simply just admit they were in the wrong and, take the L, because everyone has to at some point, and move on. Now you've got 5 guys who are probably going to go to prison for it. Well, they will go to prison for it, let's face it.
Well, right now it's manslaughter 2.
Yeah, his cause of death is unknown.
Right. It's probably going to be blunt force trauma, though.
From the kicks to the head? Yeah, I think so.
Or the stun baton. Yeah, probably.
Yeah. That's not good.
And honestly, so I know that there are a lot of conservatives who kind of didn't necessarily want it to come out like this because, of course, the police is supposed to be something that conservatives try to protect.
Yeah.
If they're not doing their job, it's not against conservative beliefs to say that cops should be held to the highest of standards. You can say that about our armed forces. There is a certain rapport and thing that you have to respect and appreciate in our military. That if our military act in a certain way that we would deem inappropriate, it is okay to say, nah, that was too far, that was too much, y'all need to pay the price for the actions that you take. I understand and I respect the individual opinions at the start when they were like, well, look, we don't know what happened yet, but how much you want to bet that we find out that he was resisting arrest and somehow. Yes, there's a point where that ends though, and it's right about when the kicking started. You can resist arrest, get tackled to the ground, and then get arrested. You don't need to beat the ever-loving shit out of him.
I'm so curious now with these idiots about how they intend, what they are going to try and... their defense is fucked. The video just is against them. The lack of evidence in some key areas absolutely horrendously ruins their reputation. They've got no job, no career, no future. They threw it all away to do nothing beyond killing a guy who did not deserve to die. It's just going to show when they're in prison that they are no better than the people they put there.
Mm-hmm.
And that's tragic, because you're supposed to be a beacon. You're supposed to be a standard, a benchmark. Protect and serve.
A lot of people know that's
I know.
We accept some of it,
but you just killed a guy who wanted to go home. Was taking photos of the bloody sunset.
Well, maybe we don't know what.
Let's go with Do I have to insert allegedly for a photograph, please?
Yes.
All right, fine. Disclaimer: allegedly, he was taking photographs of the sunset, folks. Bit cringy, I will admit.
That people really do.
No, I get you. Still, I don't. I just I agree. Good cops, police officers, I can fully support. But those are. I guess are they they're oath breakers, aren't they? Yeah, they are.
They would be.
Yeah, I don't know what. I've never heard the term oath breaker used, so I have to confirm it.
Right.
Other than in fantasy,
yeah, paladin, oathbreaker.
Yeah.
But no, yeah, technically they would. You could call them that because they did not protect and serve. They maliciously beat a man. And I hate to say it because sometimes they the left will occasionally use this argument and in an improper way, but I think in this case this is valid. Resisting arrest doesn't necessarily mean that you have to die. And sometimes that is neglected in some of these cases.
Yeah.
Now sometimes they have said that when the person steals another person's gun. And I'm like, that's not resisting arrest. That's a little bit further than that. That's the person who has now stolen an officer's gun. I don't know if you can use that.
I've only ever seen that on comedy shows like My Name Is Earl, stealing a police officer's gun and taking his car for a lol.
Do you remember the guy who had been asleep in the Wendy's. He ended up stealing an officer's taser and was about to turn around and shoot an officer with their own taser when the guy was shot.
Really?
Yeah. So like, it's like, why did you shoot him? He was only shooting a taser. Because I had a gun drawn and he shot me with a taser. He could take the gun. He already was going to shoot me with a taser. Why wouldn't he shoot me with a gun? Like these things are some of the reasons why those actions happen. But for a vast majority of other situations that we've seen that argument used, it's not always valid. In here, though, I don't care if the guy was high, went for a walk to smoke weed, or went somewhere to go smoke weed and then was driving back to his house. Reckless driving, I've gotten pulled over for reckless driving. And by the way, reckless driving is driving over 15 over the speed limit. So
I didn't know that. I don't drive, so that's news to me.
Yeah, so 15 over or 15 and under is usually speeding. Any number over the speed limit is technically called speeding. But if you go 15 or over the speed limit, it's typically reckless driving.
Okay.
And also certain actions that you could do while you're in the car can also be considered reckless driving. Yeah, those things. I don't think that is a warranted reason for what had happened here. I think that they severely fucked up, and I mean they've got a they're looking at a murder 2 charge, all 5 of them.
What does murder 2 mean? I don't know what that is.
So murder 2 would it would still be a felony. It would basically be like you're one step below. You went out to intentionally kill somebody, and you deserve the worst of the worst. It usually has some kind of condition where
I'm assuming based on lack of evidence that they're not looking for murder 1 then, because if they had the evidence, they probably could prove that they'd gone out to do that.
Right.
Okay, that makes more sense then. I assume murder 2 carries a fairly lengthy term, though.
Yes, it does. It varies from state to state, so I can't say for certain. But Tennessee, I can't imagine is too nice about it, if I'm going to be honest. And I don't think they should. I think that these guys, I'm very interested to see what they have to say when their trial comes up. I want to hear them.
Let's go. In the state of Tennessee, the conviction of first-degree murder in Tennessee carries life in prison without the possibility of parole or the death penalty. Mm-hmm. Second-degree murder in Tennessee. Let's see. Got what? Oh, you got what is, because I got with Tyree Nichols' article from Commercial Appeal. Let's see. We got anything here? What is second-degree murder? Schedule 1, Schedule 2. More serious than voluntary manslaughter. Not eligible for death penalty, unlike first. So life is the sentence.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but without, so first degree has the death penalty. Essentially, it's the only difference
in Tennessee.
Yeah,
I didn't say that.
I'll link it to you so you have a copy.
Appreciate it. And genuinely, like, nah, like there needs to be, some justice here. Again, haven't seen any videos of anybody doing any untoward forms of protest.
Yeah,
I would have figured that if there was, I would have seen plenty of it.
I'm glad there is. I'm glad that
wasn't.
I'm glad that people on the right side on this one.
Mm-hmm. Because I also appreciate that any protests that are happening, as far as I'm aware, again, they've been done correctly.
Yeah. That's good news, because you get the message across at that point. This one's a fuck up of the police force. It's not racially motivated, unless it's Bloods and Crips. It's very, and that's not even racial. That's just gang members. But
I was gonna say that's just gang related. Which, by the way, the Scorpion unit that got disbanded is actually a specialized unit for things like drug busting and gang busting.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, they're gonna love that in prison, aren't they? When they're getting done by SRT all the time.
Yeah, I did think about that. I was like, well, I certainly hope you don't get bunked with any of those guys.
Yeah, I mean, if you put someone in there, especially.
Yeah, you might have a hard time. Phrasing.
F. Actually, no. F yourself, not you. Them.
Yeah, I got you. No, I genuinely like. I'm just like, well, actions have.
Yeah.
Oh, damn it! If it's not the consequences of my own actions.
What a shame. All right. Well, we've hit an hour and 7 minutes. So I think we've run out of time for things to talk about. I'm afraid.
Okay.
Are you here this Friday?
I believe so. What is this Friday?
I don't know, third, fourth.
Third. Yeah, I should be. I don't think I'm doing anything, so I think we're good.
Well, this will be uploaded to Spotify in 2 days, I'm afraid. No, 3. It had to be Wednesday because I'm away tomorrow until Tuesday evening. But we shall be back soon. Thank you all very much for joining us. Do go follow Trups on Twitter. His Twitter link was earlier posted by Leona. If she's still here, she'll post it again. Please. Thanks again for joining us. Yes, indeed. Go follow us on Spotify as well. We'd appreciate that. And we'll see you all Friday. Say goodnight, Trups.
Good night, Trups.
Good night, Trups.